Greetings. Welcome to Dr. English's Book Lovers Book Club. I'm Dr. English and I teach English. This week I'm reviewing the book One Word, Six Letters by Adib Khorram, or Khorram, I'm not sure, but Adib Khorram, who also wrote Darius the Great is Not Okay. But this book is a new one, and I have to say that this one was like a little bit of a surprise. I did not have any idea what the book was about. I didn't know what the one word was. I do now. And it is a book that I think you definitely will want to be careful about who you suggested to. I don't know that I would um, teach it, but I really think it was a good read for me because it's got two narrators. One is Dayton, and it all starts out with Dayton, who is dared by somebody on his class, freshman class. It's like their first month of school, and they have a speaker who comes in who is a gay man, who is a poet who went to their school, and the kid bets him $20 to say a slur towards this gay man while in front of all the people in the gym. It's just like, why would you do that? But then I think this is a book about adolescent boys who are 14 who have no idea what the heck is going on in their lives. And so I do think that Adib Khorram, of course, in the sleeve it says that he is a queer Iranian American author. And so I just feel like, man, I'm astounded by how he can recall his own adolescence because to me, this is a book for boys. And so, I mean, all the while I was reading, I thought, oh, there are a lot of teenage boys who would really benefit from reading this because it really seems like that's his audience, that he expects those kinds of readers for this book, and he's known for writing young adult fiction, but this one in particular I feel like is written for adolescent boys struggling through the changes that they're going through, because there's a lot of that repetition in the book of the changes that their bodies are going through. But Dayton is he is a typical, and it takes place in Kansas City, Missouri. That's the setting for it. And having lived in Missouri and not far from there, a couple hours from there, I can really see, some of the, I understand a little bit more probably than most people, some of the things that are going on. And then the two narrators are Dayton, who's just your typical, high school adolescent white kid. And he's the one that says that slur out loud in front of all these people based upon he wanted to get $20 because he was hungry. He hadn't had breakfast, and the very first chapter is just he's talking about, oh no, I'm in trouble, but man, I'm starving, and I didn't even get my $20 for saying what I said. It just shows how how absolutely non-thinking some 14-year-old boys are. They just like, oh, I'll take that bet, and then do stupid things. I mean, he's basically done a really stupid thing. And he has no idea what the consequences are going to be for shouting that word out in front of everybody in the freshman class, and as a slur, to this gay poet, and so it's through Dayton's point of view, and then it's through Fashid's point of view, who is an Iranian boy whose parents risked everything to get Fashid and his siblings to America, to live in America, and so being Iranian, he's also Persian, and he's also Baha'i faith. So because of all these things, he really sticks out. It's been really hard for him and his sisters and his older brother to really fit in a school, and it was really. There's a couple parts, I'm not reading it, but there's a part where he's talking about that where I taught for 21 years, there was a Baha'i faith community, and one of the things that Fashid talks about is some girl crying because he wasn't a Christian, and I thought, man, that brings back some memories for me, because I had heard of a similar story from the Baha'i community, the adolescents in the Baha'i community, and it just kind of broke my heart to be reminded of that, and to know that I understand that in this story is very real. And it made me sad. It made me sad to recall that from some of my Baha'i teenagers when I taught high school. And so that I really appreciated. That it's very genuine in that regard. That Adib, was really authentic when he wrote that. And so, but this, uh, uh, the one thing that really I really got frustrated with was this. He has this repetition of this line is, I'm not, and so I'm going to read a bit about that because I find it really interesting. But then I think, I'm not him, and I haven't had that experience, and maybe this is really right out, right up the way it really was. So I'm going to read a bit from chapter 14. This is Fashid, and he's really getting into bodybuilding because he wants to be, start to fill out. And so he's going to a gym to do boxing and, weightlifting. And I'll read this because this is where there's this repetition of the words. 1, 4, 5, Coach Nico calls out. Jab, right hook, left uppercut. 3, 3, 6, left hook, right uppercut. 1, 2, 1, 2, jab, cross, jab, cross. Sweat drips down your forehead into the corner of your eye, and you blink the salt burn away as you breathe and follow the combos. This is the best part of the workout, when you turn your brain off and punch as hard as you can. Light on your feet one moment, driving from your hips the next. Butterfly, B. You are strong and capable. You're getting gains. You're not that word. You're not. And so that keeps going through Fashid's mind, that the word that Dayton, the other kid, said, keeps going through his mind. And kids look at him as he's going down the hallway. And Fashid is like, he doesn't know who he is yet. So in his mind, this keeps repeating, you're not that, you're not that, you're not that word, you're not. It's like he's trying to convince himself of this. And so that repetition of line, and I get why why the author's doing that, but it is as a reader, it was just like, no more. Okay, so this is section. I think this is part 3, maybe part 3. And it just starts in September, and then it goes to November, and then it's January. And this is after the whole semester where people just like, people that were Dayton's friends, just like he's like, damaged goods. Like nobody wants to associate with him. He loses his best friends because of what he said. And so he is in ISS with another kid named Brody. And Brody's kind of a questionable character. He's in ISS, and Dayton has never been in ISS. He's always been a good kid. And so this is his a section of his. So it's there's a parallel here. New year, new semester, new you. That's what's running through your mind as Marshall pulls into the student parking lot. Everything is going to be better now. Granted, the end of last semester isn't hard to beat. Everyone thought you wrote that word on the RC board before Thanksgiving break. The RC board is there's a Rainbow Coalition room in their school. You didn't, obviously. You and Brody were long gone from school. You were at his house, and he was making you binge a bunch of old Star Wars cartoons you didn't even know existed. That didn't stop the rumors flying when you got back from break, or Dr. Matthews interrogating you in his office until he got hold of Brody's mom, who confirmed your alibi. You're not proud of it, but your first thought was that Reggie had done it. You don't know why, but you didn't tell anyone. You weren't going to go throwing around accusations. You're not that kind of guy. And you're not that kind of guy who writes slurs on whiteboards either. You're not. So this repetition of you're not is, you have Dayton, and then Reggie's the kid who made the bet with him for the $20. And so we kind of know right off the bat that Reggie's probably a questionable character. And then you meet Brody, but then Dayton becomes good friends with Brody because Brody is actually sympathetic to him and, feels, some kind of empathy with him because they're both in ISS. And so you have Fashid, who's trying to figure out, himself, and you have Dayton, who's trying to figure out himself. And so they come from very different backgrounds. And so, but the one thing that, does stand out for both of them is just like understanding their hormonal changes and their sexuality and their, you know, sexual desires. And so I think it is, you know, I don't think I would have anybody read this who's, you know, maybe 8th grade and above, because there is you know, a lot of references to, you know, their understanding something about their sexuality and sex, you know, pretty much. And so I think this, I have a bad feeling that this book will get banned if a parent actually read it, because they'd be like, oh, you're talking about the M word. And so it's like, you know, it's part of adolescent behavior though. So and so and I think that's, you know, actually pretty healthy to have that conversation. So um, but I'm just saying that that's one of the things that people will, you know, say, you know, we don't want our kids reading about that, even though they're all struggling with that question. And so but I do think it's, you know, for me, it's like, that's why I thought it was more geared towards boys. I'm like, oh, well, are adolescent boys like that? I have no idea. So, but the, you know, the concept of friendship, the concept of doing what is right is really important in the book. And so, and for that reason, I definitely think, you know, if you're teaching secondary, you could assign this as a book club book, or keep it on your shelf. If you know, you know, a student who is struggling with, you know, their sexuality and their gender and understanding who they are, I definitely think this is a great book for them to understand that there are others who have been down that road. And so for that reason, I'd say definitely you should keep it on your shelf in your secondary classroom. And, you know, if you're attentive to your students and know that people are struggling, this is a great book for them. So um, but otherwise, I think you know, you might have a little trouble with, you know, certain parents and groups of parents. So I would keep that in mind too. So, but you could always send home an orange slip that says, you know, this has references to sex and, you know, sexual uh, um, sexuality, I guess. I don't know how to put that, but it's always one of those dicey things with parents. So, but definitely, you know, please put it on your shelf for a student who might really benefit from it. So, until next time, thanks for joining me. Bye.